you're always in the race. And so I think whenever you work on any product or any feature, you should not just think about how am I going to sell this one feature I'm just working on right now, but also about the next step, which is when my competitor sees that and releases the same thing or similar thing in a month, how am I still going to stay on top of things? And the answer to that question is often not technical, once again, but rather strategic.
We've got Lev Perlman, founder and CTO of Metamindz. How do you track the different projects that you're working on with clients?
Well, there are a lot of...
Welcome to Founder Metrics by Vested, the podcast where we dive into the world of hotshot business leaders and the metrics that drive their game-changing companies forward. I'm your host, Ifti Nasser, CEO and founder of Vested. Hello, my name's Ifti, and this is Founder Metrics. Today, we've got Lev Perlman, founder and CTO of Metamindz. And I'd like to ask Lev to just give a brief intro to himself.
Thank you, Ifti. Thank you for having me here. I'm Lev. I'm originally from tech. I worked as a developer, tech lead, CTO, worked as a freelancer for some time. I'm originally from Israel, came to the UK in 2019, and today I run an agency. And we help founders and other agencies with anything technical. So we do development, CTO or technical co-founder as a service, and we help with fundraising.
Yeah, we'll pick up on all of those in a moment. But first, tell us about the journey from Israel. I know you got a very special visa, so tell us about that.
It's called a global talent visa. If you're looking to move to the UK, I think that's the one to go for. Basically, it means you need to pass like a check. You need to provide a file of evidence which proves you are a global talent, how they call it, or global promise. Yeah. And that allows you to come to the UK and you don't have to work for a specific employer. You can essentially start your own businesses. You can work for anyone you like, almost. And that gives you the freedom you need to be like an entrepreneur here.
Brilliant. And you talked about Metamindz and how it's helps people with the technical sides of building a startup and also with the CTO support. But tell us a little bit more about just how you help people in that way, because it is usually the most difficult thing. We've got hundreds of people with great ideas, but the tech is difficult.
Tech is difficult, and non-technical founders will often do the wrong thing because they don't have the right experience. I've had my own B2B startups. I've worked with corporates and with startups. So what I bring is essentially, I'll be your friend who's your CTO or your technical co-founder, and we have other tech leads in the company who do that as well as a service. The goal is to help you to make the right choices, be on the right path, and avoid mistakes that you can avoid by just having that experience in the first hand. I often see founders chasing trends or investing in technology too early, and I will often say, you don't need to do anything technology related right now. You first need to do some research, and I'll help with the research. And only then maybe you build a product. And that's not what agencies usually do, but I believe that's the only right way to be a technical agency.
So it's both product and engineering that you help them with.
Yeah, right. Exactly.
And when you say sometimes you tell them not to go down the tech route too early, How often have you told people not to go down the idea route at all and therefore lost a piece of business, maybe even for yourself?
Yeah, I definitely lost some business that way, but I would rather work only on projects I honestly believe that can succeed and that we can help with. I don't think that you wouldn't hire a CTO for your company who does not believe in your business or who thinks that it's not the right strategy or the right way to go, right? You would only hire people who really have the vision to deliver where you want it to be. Yeah. And so the only projects I would take is the projects I see exactly how we can help and how they can really achieve the goals that the founders want. So I would say around 60% of the times where I've spoken with early stage founders, I had to say, it's too early to build an app or a website or whatever you're trying to build. You need to finish the research first. Otherwise, you're going to get stuck later on before your next fundraise. You're going to run out of cash if you do the tech right now.
And how do you yourself look at those questions around whether they're ready or not? And what are the things that you ask them in terms of gauging that readiness? Yes, there's the research, but above and beyond that, what are the questions that you explore when you're looking to work with somebody, either as part of their team or as an advisor?
I would say the main thing you need to have is certainty in your product or your solution, but not just that it's the right solution to a problem, but also that people are going to pay for that what you expect them to pay. There's no point in building a solution that nobody's going to pay for it, or at least not what will make sense commercially. So before we write any code at all, we'll have several conversations where we'll make sure that you have the right, I would say, road ahead of you, and you know exactly, like, you know how to narrow down your solution to solve the problems, and in a way that's going to be lean, not over-engineered, not too complex, but which will help you either achieve your goal with fundraising or with revenues, one or both, essentially.
Right. And if you can't see the vision, you send them back for more work, do you?
I mean, I would.
Because as you said, you only work where you feel you believe in the proposition.
Yeah, but I wouldn't just say no. I would offer value. I would be happy to help, even for free. Like, would have weekly or monthly conversations with the founders where I will help them to go to the right path, which I think is the right way to monetize their business and have their startup like succeed. But I will not be charging or bringing in a team of developers before we have that certainty that what they're about to invest in technology is really going to deliver the value they expect it to deliver. I've seen founders like be disillusioned with tech way too often, where they think they have it all figured out, like the Jira is ready, all the roadmap is there, but then it's just not the right product, it's not the right thing. And so they spent a fortune at that point, all their cash, they now need to fundraise again, but they can't because they did not achieve their KPIs. Yeah. So we will prevent that from the get-go, and I will not bring any developer to a project, and I will not start developing anything until we have that certainty with the founder.
So how big is the Metamindz team, and how versatile is it?
So we started with just myself as a freelancer, but then we grew to a team of 15 people in total within 6 months, and my goal for that year is to hopefully double that team.
And how do you augment? Because I guess you may have more projects than you have people. So do you have a freelance team that you can pull in, or how does it work?
So a bit of history here. Yeah. The agency started when the war in Ukraine started. So I've been following the news when the whole thing started like crazy. I've been plugged in to all the Telegram channels and YouTube and everything 24/7, listening to what's going on. It was terrifying and horrible and scary. And during my career before that, I managed quite a lot of people from Ukraine. So I know people there personally. I see how that affected their families and their lives. And I didn't plan to start an agency. I just wanted to help them in any way I can. And I thought the best way I can help them is to give them stable work. When a lot of Western companies left the market, I thought the best I can do is to offer them jobs that are going to help them get back on their feet. And if I can help them with relocation, I would help that as well. And that's how it started. And some of them are employees, like direct employees of mine. Some of them are freelancers. It depends on their own circumstances. We have people from Ukraine and people who have moved to Europe as a result. And we're very like scale up and down as we need. You know, any agency, any kind of business, which is services-based business, has a lot of like seasonal, I guess, aspect to it. Because in the summer when fundraising is a bit slower or when everybody is in vacations, usually you don't get that much of new business. You need to like retain more and work harder or with other parts of the world to get new business. So we can scale up and down as we go.
And you said that the part of the inspiration was the war. So this is, one could argue, a positive outcome from your perspective from that war. I mean, it's a crap situation and not one that anybody would want. But it motivated you to even initiate Metamindz. Is that right?
That is correct. Before that, Metamindz was a one-man show, like an agency for one freelancer myself. When it started, I literally remember myself lying in bed and thinking, all right, do I now go to Poland and start helping refugees there? Or do I do something from here that could help? And I didn't think I would be of too much value as a volunteer in Poland, because really a lot of people came there to help with the families, and I didn't feel like that's the right thing, the best thing I can offer. And so that felt to me, if I can give them a stable job when they lost their jobs and they needed the money to move to a different country or to stabilize their lives, I felt like that is the best I can do.
But given it's tech, and
Yeah.
we understand there must have been lots of disruption in terms of communications and so on, how easy was it for them to actually deliver for, it sounds very crass given that what's going on there, but if you're selling a service to a client,
Yeah.
how easy, how difficult was it for them to actually deliver that service?
At first, it was a bit hard, but then almost everyone now has like a Starlink there. Their internet is better than ours. Like honestly,
Really?
they're living in a war zone. Their internet is better than we have here. Like we have fewer
Is that
issues
thanks
there.
to Mr. Musk or?
Thanks to Mr. Musk, exactly. They have fewer times where they disconnect or have like lower speeds than we here.
Yeah.
But also like the main I guess strategy for the agency was that we don't have non-technical people, and we only have tech leads and like CTOs who manage client engagements and projects. And so let's say a developer or a designer cannot make it to a deadline or to a call or whatever, we will go hands-on and deliver and finish the project on time. And that was the goal, like personal responsibility of the leadership team for every single project we have.
So obviously for Metamindz, you have your own metrics, which we'll come on to in a moment. But how do you track the different projects that you're working on with your clients and how they are progressing? How do you gauge, yes, this is going well, this is not going so well?
Well, there are a lot of methodologies today, Agile, Scrum, whatever. You can like have a method invented every other week, right? Mm-hmm. At the end of the day, if things are moving quickly and smoothly or not.
How?
Because you speak with the founders and you see if their goals and KPIs are achieved. At the end of the day, technology only exists to serve the business. There's literally no need to build an app or a website or whatever if it does not achieve your goals as the founder or like the business person. It's there to serve you, right? And you will know if it serves you well right now or not. If you've grown your customer base or revenues as you expected or not, right? And if you feel that your goals were not achieved, then technology was not done correctly. So it's constant communication with the founding team as opposed to just tracking tickets or story points or whatever it is.
But how do you gauge that difference, in terms of your role is a little bit, yes, you've worked as the CTO for many of the products that you've had as contracts, but also from a business perspective, some of the challenge will be the technology, whether the app's working or not. The other side of it might be around the marketing or the communications. How do you help the founders balance that aspect out, even though your role is around the tech?
I often tell them not to solve a problem with technology. So there were quite a few cases where we've seen that a certain problem can be solved with either actually removing features from the product when it was too complex, or by going into marketing, or like making an ad campaign which would be very specific to achieve a specific goal. I think that a developer might not be able to make that choice, but if you bring to any project you do like a technical co-founder, that's their job to do that kind of decision making and help you, guide you to the right place. I don't think that it's correct for agencies to just push to solve everything with technology, but rather we need to achieve what the business needs. Mm-hmm. And yes, as you've said, some of that will be via technology, but other things will be via marketing, ads. We've actually done a couple of videos for clients where we help with like actually film and shoot an ad and then edit it and like push it out. So it's like creative work. I love creative work, so it really excites me, as you can see, to do that. But I would never push to just do stuff with technology to solve your problems.
But so I was just thinking that contribution that you make to your clients is not just on the tech, even though all your people are tech folk, you will bring some of your other experience to the table for your clients.
All of our leadership layer, like leadership and management layer, is people who I would say are 50-50 between tech and business. Like I would not hire someone to be a tech lead if that person does not have the business understanding and the creativity to think outside the box and not just do everything via code or technology.
So how much of the work that you're doing at the moment would you say is AI rather than just old-fashioned tech?
I would say I outsourced to AI, so to speak. I would say around 30% of administrative stuff and some creative things too, but not fully. For example, if I need like copywriting or images for social posts or blogs or stuff like that, I use AI for it, and then I refine manually to make sure it really achieves what I want. I don't think we're still in a place where you can fully rely on AI and get good results. I mean, you would get stuff that's too generic if you just generate content, but that can really save you time with creating a structure or just like kicking things off, and then you refine it, you make it proper.
I guess related to that, there's one of the interviews that I'd heard of yours previously, and I'll just read this verbatim and just trying to get an understanding of what you say. You said that every line of code that is written in your organization will most likely contribute to its death.
Yes.
Quite a powerful statement. Do you want to tell me what it means for you?
Every line of code you write is essentially something you then need to maintain. It's something that can and most likely will cause problems or like bugs at some point. So you will always have to pay for anything you do, not just when you create it to develop that feature or write that line of code, but also later down the line. We've seen cases where a bug have cost companies a lot of money, and then like as a consultant you need to come in and help to mitigate. And it can be a tiny thing that's undocumented or just was left by some developer behind who doesn't work there anymore. And so you need to figure it out as everything is burning down. It's scary. And so what I think is if you can avoid building something, or if you can make it as simple as possible, that's the way to go.
So it's about keeping the lines of code as lean and as short as possible. Because I guess that talks to technical debt as well then.
Yes.
And when you're helping people build the technology, how much do you push to minimize that technical debt, or is it more important to be lean, get fast, and we'll fix in due course? Because there's always a balance.
You're absolutely right. There's always a balance. I would say it really depends on where you are as a company in terms of like fundraising, clients, what the clients demand of you, what your users ask for. And that will essentially drive your strategy. So if you have a bit more, like I would say go lean always. Doesn't matter if you're loaded and have millions in your bank and you can spend them on development for years and you will be fine. Still, I would say go lean as much as you can, but especially so if you're tight on cash. You want to be lean. You want to move fast, but you don't want to over-engineer things. You don't want to make things too complicated. For example, I always push for no DevOps in all the projects we do, unless there is a very like specific need to have some complex DevOps setup. You usually can achieve everything with the platform as a service solutions, and you don't want to spend money on DevOps engineers later down the line. So I would say anything you can do to be lean and not to build stuff in-house, while still having that scalable in the future, do that.
So you said about lean, you said about even if you got millions to spend, but you've also said most of the businesses that you've worked with, or those that have failed because of either they ran out of time or money. What's the time element on that?
I would say, first of all, luckily, not most of the business I worked with have.
No, those that you observed. Those
that I observed failing. So it's very easy to have a high burn rate on a month-to-month basis by spending money on things you don't need, I think. It's way too easy to rent offices, and I believe we are in a remote world today, or at least like in a very much hybrid world where you don't need that expense at all. And it's very easy finding yourself building things because either it's trendy or because you think, you just don't question it. Like, that's the right way to go. I need to build my own DevOps pipeline. I need to build my own back office system, which will then need to manage the whole app or platform from. And that's not, I think you should challenge all of these decisions before committing to them. You can save a lot of money by being remote. You can save a lot of money by not building things that you can use a third party for. Even if like in 2 years you will need to extend that or build your own solution, you've saved money for 2 years by not doing that. And that should be good enough for you to achieve your goals, either whether these goals are to fundraise or to grow your customers or both. So yes, businesses fail because they burn too much money on stuff that I don't think they need at first, which is why I always push towards being lean. Now, in terms of time, well, you are always in a race with other companies who watch what you're doing, and most likely your competitors quite often will have more cash than you. So you're almost always in a race to innovate and to still win people over from your competitors. Mm-hmm. You do that by moving quickly. And to move quickly, you do need a lean team, not a large team. There is a common misconception that more butts on a seat coding means more speed. That's just not the case.
Absolutely.
It's the other way around. But yeah, you're always in the race. And so I think whenever you work on any product or any feature, you should not just think about how am I going to sell this one feature I'm just working on right now, but also about the next step, which is when my competitor sees that and releases the same thing or similar thing in a month, how am I still going to stay on top of things? And the answer to that question is often not technical, once again, but rather strategic. For example, if you're about to release a brilliant whiteboard, okay, application for Teams, whatever, right? And then there are a few massive competitors that we all know and use every day. You need to think about, all right, when they're going to release their version of what I'm building, which is better, what do I do? So maybe what you do is you go to a different country where they don't sell right now. Maybe you figure out that they cannot sell in, I don't know, Asia, and you decide, all right, that's where I can get competitive advantage over them. And if they do go there, then at that point, I will already have the whole infrastructure set there to sell my product. So it's always that kind of, your race is in time perspective is against your competitors. And so you always need to think about these things beforehand.
Changing track a little bit, going back to what you just said about remote. We started life as a in situ business. We got a little WeWork office in Moorgate, but it's probably 2018 that we decided, why are we pulling everybody in to this one facility, an hour and a half to get in, same going home, and we just thought we'd explore remote first. We kept the office, downsized the office, but then went to essentially killing it end of February 2020. Really good timing.
Perfect timing.
But you started with Metamindz, you started remote. The whole thing had to be, given where your starting point was. So given that for us, at least, we were able to create a little core of culture and commonality and rapport between the small initial team, although it grew obviously a lot bigger post going remote. How did you create that feeling within the organization when you started remote? And I don't know how many of the engineers or technical folk that you'd even met before these guys in Ukraine. Had you met many of them?
Most of them I've only been working with remotely, and especially since the beginning of the war, they cannot really leave the country, so it had to stay fully remote for them as well. It is a challenge. But today you can still build that kind of rapport and culture fully remotely. So the way to achieve that, I think, is a lot to do with remote deliveries. We deliver a lot of gifts and stuff to our people. Deliveries in Ukraine work amazing. I tried to deliver last week something to one of our tech leads in Spain, and that did not go through. While in Ukraine, literally next day delivery works perfect. So
that's amazing. I guess most people wouldn't even perceive that.
Their country, they're super resilient, and they operate very, very well under stress, which is what I found out in the last year. And everything works. Everything works perfectly. They're an amazing bunch. So we do a lot of remote just coffees. You don't have to attend. We don't force anyone. There are people who are introverts. I totally get that. So I would never force them to, you need to now sit and have a coffee with me. That wouldn't work out too well. But it's just having the personal connection, chatting about life, doing holidays together or special occasions, celebrating together with remote deliveries of gifts and food and stuff like that. That is the way to go. And so you can have a proper connection remotely if you just invest in it sometime. And it proved itself to work very, very well for us.
Before Metamindz, you were at Capgemini, technical lead, etc. there, but you had a startup of your own before that. Had some challenges. So do you want to just help us understand that business and the challenge and how you then made that decision? What were the metrics that you were looking at that helped you decide to proceed or not?
Absolutely. So that startup before it, I think it was the best thing I've done before Metamindz. I'm really glad I've done it, even though today it's not operational anymore. So it was a B2B SaaS solution for development teams. We've essentially built like a very, very smart whiteboard, which also connects to serverless code. And that allowed non-technical people, founders, product managers, whatever, to build full like flows and user journeys of their apps without having to code.
Yeah.
There would be an engineering element where engineers connect that to functions, whatever. I'm not going to get into details, but that would be just done just once. And then the product people can do the whole thing, manage the whole thing themselves. Coded it fully, single-handedly. We worked on that for 2 years. My co-founder, who's my partner, and I worked on that for 2 years. He helped me with anything like related to the business, marketing, and stuff like that. I've done all the fundraising and coding. It was very challenging, but I learned a lot on the way. I would say the main lessons that I can share and that I implement today, every single day. You need to be very conscious of what's working and what's not working all the time. You must not allow your excitement to drive what you do and what you deliver. You need to be very observant of the metrics and how it's received by the people who use it.
And what were those metrics for you?
That would be adoption, and how much we replace from your work that you would do like the old way versus the new way. It's adoption and visibility into that kind of thing. When we've seen that a certain feature does not land as well as we expect, we change it. All right. We either remove it or we change it in a way that's still going to make it easy for people who got used to it to still like use the platform. But we change and we move very quickly. I think we didn't have sprints or anything like that. We just had a backlog of stuff we would reprioritize based on user feedback and interviews we would do. Then again, as a founder, you don't just drive your business by that. You also drive it by your investment requirements. We bootstrapped for 2 years, which was, I think, great. Then we started to fundraise, and that was 6 months too late when we started to fundraise. If we had started fundraising 6 months earlier, the business would still be alive, I think.
And what slowed you down? Why didn't you go 6 months earlier? You weren't confident of the product or where you'd gotten it to, or what was holding you back?
We worked very hard, and I didn't really want to part with equity, or at least not with not with the offers that we got to part with equity. It seemed unreasonable to me, and so we wanted to keep as much as we could to ourselves, and that essentially is the wrong thing to do. I mean, at some point you have to.
It is a tough decision because yes, you've built this thing. Nobody's giving you value for it in the same way. You hold on just a little bit more.
Exactly.
It is a really tough timing position,
Yeah.
but I think you're right. It is critical to determining whether you have enough to run or whether you're holding on to just enough. I guess obviously vested well enough. Our whole philosophy is that sharing that equity, whether it's with investors or team members, is key to the success of the business.
100%.
But I think getting it right and the proportions right is absolutely key to your own feeling of fairness and something that you can run with. But sometimes it will feel uncomfortable.
I think it will almost always feel uncomfortable, but you need to live with it and you need to let it go. The fact that we didn't agree to the terms we were offered by several different VCs essentially is what killed the business at the end, because I got too burned out to keep coding fully by myself.
Yeah.
And then at some point, I learned the most important lesson. It's when our competitors released something very similar and something that allowed anyone to build what we're building with just less time. And so at that point, we're like, okay, if I've had at that point the team I needed to go quickly, I would be able to overcome it, which means if I've started fundraising 6 months earlier, at that point, I would have had the team. And because I'm a technical person, I would be able to manage them quite quickly and get them up to speed. But I didn't. And so I thought, all right, if we only now we start fundraising, and we did, but if only now we agree to the terms and get the capital, it is too late. It is too late. We're not going to be able to raise the next round. We'll have to pivot right now, and we just don't have the capacity to do it.
Tough stories, but important learning.
I would not change that for the world, because that gave me an incredible experience, a lot of business knowledge, a lot of lessons learned, a lot of brilliant people I've met, and I was able to build a very good network of investors, which today at Metamindz we actually refer startups to if we think that what they're building is good. We don't take any commissions for that. We just refer to our pool of investors that we think would be a good match for a founder.
Brilliant. I guess one of the things for me, the technology that you use is absolutely core to the business. If you've got a temporary technical lead or technical team, are you not essentially creating a dependency? Because nobody else, they can't bring in their own tech team in due course unless they're the same people. It becomes really difficult. How do you address that when the holder of the technology leadership then changes from outsourced to insourced?
I've experienced quite a lot of problems like that when I was a client. So not when I'm running my own agency, but when I was a client. And so what I've experienced that both from employees who were in-house and leaders who were working in-house for a company and from other agencies. The main problem is that anyone can leave. An agency can leave and employees leave as well. And I've seen startups where there was like literally one key person who would be holding like the whole thing working, right? When that person leaves, your company is dead because the next problem that's going to happen, especially in a financial institution, you will be dead if you don't solve it immediately. So, and if that person leaves, you will not be able to solve it. The thing is, as a service provider, I must make sure that the client can grow their business without me. Like I need to make myself obsolete, essentially. I need to make my team obsolete as well at some point. And the way to achieve that is by offering very, very strong documentation and working very closely with the founders to make sure you have a very smooth and well-documented handover doc or like videos showing how to do things for literally every single thing you build. And to be honest, I think it's easier to be in that mindset as a service provider as opposed to as an employee. Because as an employee, your space in the company is way more secure because you're a permanent employee, it's in the name, as opposed to a service provider who can be fired with 7 days notice for no reason at any point. Okay. And so my whole business is built on trust, and trust comes from offering a service which the clients are happy with. If I'm not going to build the relationship and the technology in a way that's going to be easy to manage after I leave, I've not done a good job, and I'm going to be punished for it by poor reviews and a low rating. So by default, I'm in a mindset I have to not get into that place. And so that's how I train all the people that work with Metamindz. So I would say it's more of a mindset thing, and it's easier to achieve as a consultant than a permanent employee.
It is a brilliant philosophy to make sure that you are replaceable and almost imperative for the success of a business that's looking to grow and not be dependent on any one third-party provider. But talking about Metamindz now, so what's the future? You've got a small team now. How many people in the UK and how many in Ukraine?
So we've got 3 people in the UK. We have freelancers, like a pool of freelancers we often work with for design and stuff like that, who are fully UK based. But everything related to technology is in Ukraine, or people who moved from Ukraine to other European countries.
And where's it going? I mean, do you see the ability? I mean, the war has basically been a year and a quarter now. Metamindz has grown in that time. Do you see it accelerating in growth? Do you see people realizing the opportunity of the technology and the people that are there available to Metamindz in Ukraine and, as you say, now elsewhere in Europe? How do you see the future?
Well, it's not really about the developers or the technical aspect of it. It's more about how many new startups or new agencies or new businesses are you going to have in the UK or Europe or like anywhere, right? If you see growth, and you obviously will see growth in businesses that rely on technology as their core offering, then you will need people to deliver and implement that. So I think that will only increase as time goes by. What we do in terms of philosophy and approach and having like a free CTO or tech lead with literally every project we do, that works. That works very well. So I think we'll be able to retain and grow with the demand. In terms of how we grow the team or the company, I would say it's looking at new regions where we sell. So we're now going more into the United States, and that proves itself to be quite interesting. Like, it works very well, but it's very interesting too. In terms of growing the team, I mean, it's a brilliant country with a lot of smart people. So we'll be able to grow the team as we go. We do a lot of referrals. That works out quite well. So we'll keep doing that. And in a more, like, I would say, distant future, what I want to achieve is I want to start buying smaller agencies based in the UK and essentially implementing our philosophy in them together. I don't really like aggressive companies that take control and fully redo everything. I think that's wrong, but rather working together makes sense. And I want to invest in smaller parts of the UK. I think there is a lot, like too much investment going on, focused only on London or Manchester, like big towns, big cities, and not enough into smaller towns, which have brilliant people that just don't get the chance. And
that's right. I think we're very much in the same mindset there, Lev. I mean, for us, you know, there is talent all around the UK. We've got people from Exeter through to Edinburgh. It's quite amazing, actually. But who are your main competitors? You say you're moving over or you're going to try looking at the States and going beyond. Who are you really competing with? Because I guess there's a range of competitors that I can envisage.
I would say anyone who does technology as a service, you could call them a competitor. I've not seen anyone doing what we do in terms of like the approach. I think it's a unique thing we do, but I'm happy to talk about this because that's obviously that's how we present ourselves. That's our unique value proposition. If other companies start doing it, great. It means founders will get more value. And I do think that competition actually drives your creativity up. I would rather have competitors who are aggressive and I need to always keep reinventing myself and being creative in how we market and what services we offer, as opposed to just being like calm. So I would say we're competing with agencies, with software agencies, with like consultants, but then we have our unique thing. We have our human kind of friendship kind of approach with every client we work with. And I think that will win.
Well, it sounds like you've got a great future ahead. It sounds like you're doing a great thing for the businesses that you're supporting, for the technology capability that you're tapping into in Ukraine. I wish you every success for the future. And thank you so much for coming in and sharing your story and your thoughts with us and other founders.
Thank you very much for having me, and just good luck to everyone. This is like, we're living in an amazing time, so it's the time to invent, it's the time to create. Do it. Even if you're afraid, just do it and you will succeed.
Thank you for joining us on this episode of Founder Metrics. Remember, even the biggest of ambitions are within your reach when you leverage the right strategies and metrics. If you enjoyed this episode, be sure to subscribe and never miss a future episode. You can visit vested.com, Founder Metrics, for additional resources, articles, and exclusive content. Join our growing community of entrepreneurs and founders by following us on LinkedIn or X. We'd love to hear your thoughts. Together, let's continue to unlock the metrics of success, sharing, and create a brighter future.